welcome to this Courage and Compassion event. I am so happy that so many of you made it. I mean, it's dark and it's cold. At least it's California cold, right? Here. So I'm happy that you made it through that and came, here to spend this 1.5 hours with us. I'm going to introduce you to Meg and her family in just a little bit, but first I'm just going to say a couple of words about myself and about these events. So my name is Monica Adolfsson. I work as a life coach, so I coach mostly women one-on-one. They go through transitions of different kinds to make their lives yummier, find more possibilities, and so on. So that's what one-on-one work, but what I really love to do is facilitate group work. So I don't know, have you all heard about Brené Brown? Is there anybody that hasn't? Yeah, okay, good. So she is a research professor. She's from Houston, Texas. And she has researched shame, vulnerability, and things like that. And I am facilitating workshops in the work based on her research. It's amazing, this work. In these workshops, we work on looking at what thoughts, emotions, and behaviors hold us back, and then we look at what choices we can make and what practices we can put in place in order to live more wholehearted and authentic lives. Super yummy work. This Courage and Compassion, this is actually my 6th Courage and Compassion event. And it's 2 years ago, some of you here know Patty, one of our friends. She is this kick-ass marathon swimmer, and she had just done, so 2 years ago, she had just done the English Channel. She swam it not without a swimsuit, in a swimsuit without a wetsuit. And I talked to her and I said, hey, so you must be talking about this stuff I'll be out there on the circuit and talk about these inspiring things that you do. It's like, nah, not a lot. I mean, I talk about it at work and so on. I'm like, no, we have to get you out there in front of people and talk about this is amazing stuff. And so that was sort of the first Courage and Compassion event with her, which was super fun. She was super inspiring. And then I thought, why not continue this with inspiring women, as I work mostly with women, so in this case I have women as my guest speakers. So yeah, I try to think about, well, we all have interesting stories. So women that inspire with interesting stories. So Meg is here today to talk to us about her trip. Her family trip. I'm going to introduce her family too. But Meg and her family, over a year ago, they embarked on an amazing journey. They started on tandem bikes, the 4 of them, in Spain, biked up to Sweden, which is my home country. And I always say, that must have been the best place to go, right? Yeah. So if she says something else, that's probably not true, right, Kathy? Just a little bit biased here. But anyway, then they shipped their bikes back to the East Coast, went around the world, and they biked then from the East Coast to the West Coast with their kids that were then 9 and 10. I was just saying to somebody, my kids, I wouldn't even get them to bike to Menlo Park, so I don't know. It's amazing. Meg has been a friend of mine for 14 years, and when I think about these Courage and Compassion events, she really embodies courage, compassion. She's an amazingly loving and compassionate, empathic chica, and you will hear soon about all the courage. So please welcome Meg. And since we're going to have Meg here representing her family, but I thought this is for sure a team effort. So yes. If Dean and Kylie and Dexter want to come up here too, just so they can see who they are. grateful for all of you that you took the time today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And at the end, we're going to have a little question and answers, and you can have some, you know, if you have any questions for the rest of the family, you can take them at that time. So thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I told Monica, I was like, this is by far the most courageous thing I've done. This was nothing.
I'd rather do this than that. I mean, I would love to do it. I just don't know if I could do it, what you did. It's amazing. So, okay, so let's start from the beginning. So how did you come up with this idea? I mean, not only traveling the world, but also biking half of it with your kids.
Well, so when I first met Dean, one of the things I really admired about him is that after he got his master's, he traveled the world. And I just thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And he had 10 of these. And these are his, you know, these are, and this was one of the first things we kind of did after I first met him was go through these things. And I thought, oh, what
every single one.
He knew then something was amok here, but no. But it was awesome, and I loved it, and I loved that idea. So that, you know, why not? And he had said on his travels, you know, he had seen families, and it's like, sure, well, that sounds awesome too. But I mean, so, and then as time progresses, we're married, we have kids that are young, and we were talking to kind of a guy saying, okay, well, what do you want to do? You know, is there anything you'd like to plan for or do? And we did say, well, a year-long trip, you know, with kids around the world sounds, you know, good. And he's like, all right, well, let's make it so that we can have that happen. And then the third piece, which helped us to kind of put the bike into it more so, because we both rode. I met my good friend Gina here because I rode across the country, and Dean had done the same thing independently. So I mean, we both had biking in it was another one of our kind of commonalities. And we read the book, it was called 360 Degrees Longitude by John Higham, I think I'm saying that name right. And that's a family here in Fremont, California. They did the same thing. They started out on bikes to go around the world on their bikes. It's a great story. I want a little spoiler, they don't get to go around the world on bikes, but they still travel. But anyway, so we stole that piece. It's like, okay, we can certainly do this with kids, and we can do it with bikes. So that's kind of how, you know, it's like, we can do this. They did it, we can. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, and then interestingly, September Higham worked with Dean briefly when Dean was at Intuitive Surgical, and they had they spoke at REI, and so we did see them talk about it too, and she recognized Dean right off, so that was kind of nice, but just a little small world kind of thing. So, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow. So here you are. So now you're starting to plan for this trip and so on. And how did it then feel to sort of? I mean, you left your house, your family, your everything for a year. How was that? And what do people say? Just like, woo!
Right.
Or are you crazy?
So yes, there's a lot. So yes, we did start planning our trip, but we were broad strokes with the trip. I'll kind of take that step by step, but and we knew we kind of wanted to just stay warm. You know, so we would be in northern hemisphere when it was summer, and then get down to the southern hemisphere when it was winter. Just it's easier to travel when you don't have all your bulky things. Nepal was a little bit of a thing, but we can get stuff there, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But so we'd ask the kids at this point. So now, you know, now we're 5 years down the road. We're doing this trip, and we ask everybody. The kids got to choose 3 countries. Dean and I got to choose 10, and anything that overlapped was a done deal. And then we definitely had overlap with Australia. We had overlap in Africa, and probably Europe, I think, probably. I'm looking at Dean for ideas. So, and then, so from there, then we kind of, again, said, all right, why don't we'll take the bike, and then we're riding as we go. I mean, the whole time, even when the kids were little, Dean would put them in the double stroller, and he would run with them. He did a half marathon with them in a double stroller, so the kids have been used to being tags, yes, just kind of going along with whatever we're doing, and just, you know, used to being part of the scene. So then we switched to tandem bikes. Once they got old enough to be on bikes, we bought really great co-motion tandem bikes that actually grow. It's called a periscope. It's a model of a bike, and the back goes real far down, so you can be a kid on the back. But when we started, we had one bike. I was the stoker. I was on the back, and the kids were in a seat and then a stroller on the back side, the bike. So then we stopped. Now they're big enough, and now we have 2 tandems. So we took them, and they come apart. That was another thing that we liked. So we said we'll take the tandems to Europe. Then we'll ride from Lund, Sweden, or Barcelona, Spain, and we rode up to Lund. So that's the big red mark that you see up there, the big long red line in Europe.
I just want to say they biked that part.
And then we would stay visiting Sweden and Norway. Then we flew to the UK and did things around there. Then we would hit Africa. We flew down here to Cape Town, and we did some things there. Took a little layover up towards, you see Ethiopia, but it was actually Dubai is where we hung out for a weekend. And then we were in India, but it looks like I can't see it from here. India for a month, and then we were in Asia, parts of Cambodia, Thailand. Again, we visited, so we went to South Africa, Dubai, Asia, which meant India, Nepal, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia. Then we went from there to Australia and New Zealand, then to South America, and then we got back on the bikes in Boston and decided to ride to San Jose. So that was the trip plan. I mean, but we didn't, that was the outline of it.
But had you like booked all the...
No.
No. Okay, so you took it sort of by, you were at one destination and booked for the next one.
And we did look into the around the world flight tickets, but for us it did not pan out. Because if we were to fly into Madrid and then fly out of the UK like we did, on a couple of the round the world tickets, they would fine us those miles within the country, even though we're not flying them. So you get like a bucket of miles when you buy those round the world tickets, and so they would have deducted those miles even though we rode them. They would have said, yeah, so that's why we're like,
that's not fair.
Right, exactly. It's
right.
like,
you
and you would have to have a date and a time to fly out of them. I was like, no way, we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
People, you were asking how do people, what did they say? How did they feel? Always, people were pretty, encouraging. They were interested, and 2 things would always come up. They would say, what are you doing about schooling? And are you independently wealthy? We would say schooling, we're going to lean a lot on the experience of what they're getting. They're seeing the world. They're going to have to write every single day is what we said. And then, just how math just kind of applies itself because it's math. We'd have to convert kilometers to miles. We'd have to convert our money. So it just had really fun, daily, applicable lessons that just sort of built itself in. And then the independently wealthy, it's like, well, we didn't, with the bikes, we helped to keep costs down. It's not, you'd be surprised. I'm going to say this now because Dean did, because he is an engineer and he's fantastic with data. and even though it drove me crazy whilst we were on the trip, how much did you spend? But we did this trip. We were gone for 14 and a half months. And we spent $140,000. And I think we've been home since July, and we're close to that already. When you leave the Bay Area, it is so easy to save or to not spend or whatever you want to call it. And that's living. We did have our tent on the bikes, but we were in hotels. We ate out every single meal because we did not bring any kind of stove or anything. So this is doable. This is really approachable. So if
who's coming with me?
Yeah.
So are you coming with me, Gina?
So anyway, I think that
thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So before you embarked on this trip, what what were your hopes for yourself and your family, and what were your fears?
So our hopes, obviously, was just to see the world. I mean, for all of us, for the kids to see it, for us to see it, to experience it, to taste it, you know, all those good foods and things. And then to just the exposure of all these beautiful places, the people, the culture, the churches, the religions, the atmosphere, the noise, you know, all of it. It's just such a great. I like travel. I mean, I guess that shouldn't come as a surprise, but it's just such a fun way to broaden your mind, and that's what we were hoping for the kids as well, and more broadening for our own. Our biggest fear was something happening, one of us getting sick, somebody breaking a leg, somebody falling ill, you know, something that would prevent us from continuing. But that truly was the biggest fear. There was some sort of, you know, of course, the whole sort of global situation of things. Turkey was on the list for a little bit, but there had been some kind of bombings in more touristic areas. We were very conservative, so we took that off, unfortunately. But that is just another trip. I mean, I will get there. I want to get there. I think Dino does too. So anyway, we were pretty safe with where we went, I guess. But it's not, the world is not scary. It is not. It is beautiful. So.
And we are actually going to be able to see that right now.
Yeah.
So you're just going to take us through a little bit of...
Right. So now, some of you guys saw these pictures, but we'll go through. Dean and I will kind of work this together. Well, it looks like a wall picture.
Did you all get that?
So, leaving Boston on our way overseas.
When did you start this? Sorry.
This was May 23rd of 2016. Thank you, good question. Okay, and then, yep, and now we actually land in Madrid, and so of course you got to see the metro. This was the palace in Madrid. And this was this wonderful park, I should know it, that the kids were roboing, Dean and I, so it was, it was lovely.
Is this Barcelona?
What's that?
Barcelona?
There's Barcelona, that's the fish. You know, we're in Barcelona now. This was our my first taste of the Mediterranean. I'd never seen it before. Now it was unbelievable. And this is May. It's spring, but look at it. It's packed, but it was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is Park Güell by Space County. Thank you.
It's like a gingerbread house.
Yes, and everything about it. It's all creepy crawly kind of, you know, he's fantastically, he uses mosaics and stuff. It's awesome. And this is Sagrada Familia. This church, we did one thing wrong, and we went to this church first. And our bar was so high for churches that everything, even Notre Dame, you know, it's like, really? Yeah. Like, this one has a, you know, it's modern. It's based on nature. It's just everything. I totally ate it up. But like it also ruined me for other churches. But this thing, unfortunately, you cannot see. It dominates the skyline. It is enormous. But maybe I don't. Go ahead. I don't know if I put the. Okay. These are our mascots. This is Nipper. This is Monster. They came with us every mile. Nipper, we got. Monster was a gift for Kylie because it was her birthday one day before we left. So he really did every single mile. Nipper joined us just before we left out of the States. And so he did the majority of it as well. Where's Dex? He's probably, there he is. And now here we are. This is our first day riding out. We are in Barcelona. We're going to ride to about 40, 50 miles. And that's the other thing. Europe was very good to us in that you could go much shorter distances, have much better food, and it was not a difficult ride. But here we are starting out. I think we took this picture, we got on the bikes, we rode about a minute, and had to stop because we had a flat or something, and it was crazy. It's like, okay, and we're off. And it was beautiful springtime, so lots of flowers to light our, you know, And then we're already in France. It was only a couple of days later. Here we are coming to France. We loved the Euro signs. It was so fun. And we loved the no stopping. I mean, you just was like, oh, we're in France, okay. And then you just kind of keep going. We used a great app. It was called Komoot. And it was great for most of the time. But in the beginning, it did this kind of crap to us, where all of a sudden, we said we're road bikes, we want road boats. And this was not. So I mean, and to do this, you have to take the bags off and stuff. It's a lot of schlepping, but we got it figured out, and then we're back on our. It's the stuff that you talk. It's that makes the memories good. Just and this is what we would do. We'd find a hotel and then leave the bikes someplace essentially, and then we'd go for dinner. We would get in, shower up, go for dinner, go find good things to do. What? Sorry, Kylie's got something.
We never had any locks throughout the whole trip, and our bikes were completely fine.
That's right. That's a good point. Again, just goes to the non-scary part of the world. Thank you, Kylie. No locks and nothing.
Outside at night,
Well,
unless you're camping.
yeah, true. But I mean, when we were at grocery stores, no matter where, we never locked them.
Did you always have the bags on?
When we were in the hotels, we would take it in because they had our stuff. But no, the grocery stores, they were always loaded. Yeah. Good point, guys. Sorry, So this picture is actually almost famous because Dean submitted this to CoMotion and they took it. So this is one of their ads now for family, in fact for these cycles, I think for the Periscope or for how you can travel as a family. This is us coming up we left Marseille, we're coming up, this was one of our first mountain passes. And a Frenchman saw us and he turned around, he's like, do you want me to take your picture? And we're like, sure, So it's really nice because typically we get 2, but not 4. And so now we have the 4 of us, and we're at the top there. So everybody's happy.
What was the elevation gain on that?
What's that? These first ones aren't super high. That's a great question. It was up, but I can't.
It was up.
And then these other beautiful, look at this bike paths. We could use this on the California coast. Can I tell you? And French, we were in France, look at that bread. And everywhere you could camp. You could be in a campground and they'd say, oh, well, what bread would you like for tomorrow morning? I'm like, here? I can get it here, So you can order your bread for the next day when you were camping, and their campgrounds were amazing. Pools, there's always a little store you could go to. It's really, I felt like it was glamping. It was not a hardship to be at these places. And then we did ride along the coast, so this was what we got to see a lot of the times. Sometimes you would see less of the suit than we and now we're heading into Italy, which was very exciting. And Hotel Lorenzina, this day was a hard one because we didn't exactly know where we were going. And again, with Komoot and the way cities I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. We thought we were going to be in a town closer than our route actually put us. So in the middle of the day, we discovered we didn't really have a place to stay, which typically when we left every day, we had an address to go to. That was the one thing I liked, to have a destination. This particular day, we didn't. And we've been riding a while. It was starting to get a little later for us than normal, anytime it was probably 4-ish or so. But the sky was starting to look mighty threatening. It's like, uh-oh. So we found this little town, and there was nothing in it. And so we went and talked to lovely people just sitting on the stoop and asked them, a hotel or hostel. And they all just point up the hill. And it's like, okay, and again, the clouds are kind of brewing. And we would ask, how far? And I think they said like 5 kilometers. So it's like, okay, that's 3 miles, we can do this. It was 3 miles up, but we could do it. So the very first place we come to in this town, where this town was it said open, there was clearly people were there, so we kind of knocked at the door, and they said, oh, well, we're not open for business, we're just remodeling. And we said, well, do you know, is there any place to stay? And he said, well, there is a city park just up the way a little bit. I mean, really, like a block or so. He said, you know, that you could stay at the city park. It's like, okay, we'll have to camp. And again, I'm looking at the sky. And they said, there might be something across the park. This was what was across the park. Now go ahead, you know, show us the. So here we are inside Hotel Lorenzo. This is, they have their own china. They had their own, it was like a haven. It was fantastic. We walk in and behind us is a wall of keys to rooms that we would get to stay in. And this was Marco. There's some of those keys on the side. I don't know if you see them. And he was totally our hero. Because as soon as we checked into our room, we got the bikes stowed away. It comes pouring down. We haven't seen any rain like this up until this point. And I really was. I was just laughing and crying because I was like so grateful. We were inside in a beautiful hotel. And they were planning our dinner for it. You know, I mean, we were getting dinner right there. It was just one of those, I will go back to San Lorenzo. It's like, we will spend an anniversary there. And then the next day was like taken straight from The Sound of Music. It was gorgeous. Now we're still in Italy, sorry, but it was just beautiful. The sun was out, and I think we kind of got to go down a little bit, you know, so this is the next day. And look at this, come on. It's Europe. Then we did a little side trip to Venice. So here we are now. We took a train to get to Venice. We holed up in a town, and this is Gary and Terry. Thank you, Terry, and their children. Gary and Dean worked together at Intuitive. They happened to be there, so we just made it work that we got together. And this is now Father's Day weekend. So we had, and obviously I think we're at St. Mark's Plaza. Wow. We did the gondola, which was very fun. I mean, kind of a splurgy thing, but you got to do that. You know, you can't be too penny pinching, because what's the point? And there's the two guys, the work buddies. And this was just beautiful. But it was like flooding or something. It was weird inside the plaza, the square. So it just made for an awesome picture. And then where's my friend Tina told us, you must try Grom. You've got to do their gelato. And we did, and it was great. But gelato in all its forms is great. And especially when you're riding, you know, like, yeah, so just Venice, which is just so beautiful. Now we're back on the bikes and back to Italy. Right up there, I don't know if you guys can see, there are some of the Alps. It's behind the clouds, so I'm thinking, oh, here we go. It's going to start getting interesting. Oops, I do. And now, she is here with us tonight. She is Italian. She was nearby. When she heard where we were, she's like, we will come to you. And so, and that's her beautiful daughter. So we got to have it was just so great. Anytime anyone would come to be with us was just always a highlight. And so, and Fidi, so now here we are back in, you know, the beautiful countryside, and Fidi introduced us to the Kinderman egg. This, and what's inside this is this. And the kids, there's chocolate and there's a toy. It's a win-win for all. And the Kinderman stories, the kids made so much. They were able to make stories out of them. They totally occupied their time. They were fantastic. They were able to just be so creative with them. So now we're starting to climb. So this is the first day out. You can start seeing there are some hills there. And it's hot. It was a really hot day this day. So, and then look at that. I just love, you know, I love how special the food is and how they treat it so specially. Climbing again. So now day 2. And again, it's hot. I like my ice, but not in Europe. They don't give me ice. But it's just. Go ahead, sweetheart. And if you have anything, you know. So here, you know, we're still just making our way. This was the second day of a climb, and this day I am crying behind my glasses. I had lots of tears of joy and tears of tears, but yeah, this one I was just so happy to see our hotel when we saw it. Like, I'm ready to be inside there. And now this is the next day, and And this is we're heading towards the San Bernardino Pass. And yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but that was our, and we'd already been 2 days to get to this point. And I was looking at that, and I'm like, and my stoker Dex is like, Mom, we got this. I'm like, I hope so. And here is, so now very close to the top. We are really, it's probably about 10 degrees colder. The wind, there's kind of a wind whipping. This hot chocolate, I don't think you could pour it. It was so thick, but it truly saved my life. I mean, I was cold, I was depleted, and it was just like, if I don't get something, and it was hot, and it was sweet, and it was sugar, and it was everything I needed to keep going. And so we kept going, and there it is, we did it. This is San Bernardino. So, and now we're leaving beautiful Italy and heading into Switzerland. I mean, come on. Wow. Yes. And, now we had a rest day. This is in Neuchâtel, Switzerland. The kids are playing because they could. Dean and I were always enjoying things. This little thing we got in Barcelona, so we called this the Barcelona blanket. And this is what we would do a lot of times. We would just have, you know, like snacks on the side of the road or your meals, and it was just nice to have the blanket down. Pringles, ubiquitous, you can get Pringles everywhere in the world. This was at Europa Park in Germany. A blast. It puts Disney to shame. I mean, because it's super well done, it's not so expensive, and you know, come on, it's a fun amusement park. These lovely, Marion and Axel, Ida, their daughter, and Theo, their dumpling son. They took us in for 4 or 5 days. Again, Axel and Dino kind of worked together through Intuitive, so it's just so nice to have friends around the world, because if you invite us, we will come. And this was one of the ferries we had to take. It's across, I think, the Rhine. Yeah. And this is just, look at the clean energy, lots of windmills, lots of beautifulness. Swings. The kids would, as soon as if they saw a playground or something, they'd be on it. So we took breaks. Just an awesome kind of Euro flag there. A wonderful place to eat. And then, look at those choices, William. It was so fun. And look at this awesome mural. There's Kylie. So, I mean, this thing is just huge, but beautiful. Wunderland, I don't know if any of you know, this is in Hamburg, Germany, is this whole top floor is full of miniature trains, miniaturized. It has the thing of the Alps, it has an airport, it has the US, it has Europe, it has, and you just meander this top floor in total amazement. Little sculptures and things, it's amazing. Now we're into Denmark, so here we made Tivoli Gardens, which is how Disney did get its start. He kind of stole from them because he thought, what a great idea. Go ahead, sorry. So an amusement park, but also just, lovely space. And it was very wonderful riding in Denmark, because I don't know if we've seen it, but they would have bike lanes. It was a very, obviously bike-friendly place, which was nice. And here we are at the finish. And our very good friends who are here today, Bjorn and Annika, set this up because we rode to their home in Lund, Sweden. And there they were. There's the champagne man pouring. So that was 1,900 kilometers. And now Dean and Bjorn went to school. Dean took a year in Sweden when he was in college. And they met, and then again, Dean is good with keeping his people close, and they made the mistake of inviting us, I believe. And they have 3 beautiful kids. That's Oscar, and Adam, and then Emily in the center there. But we got to stay with them for like 5 days. I think they really put up with us. But we shipped the bikes back home. We had our backpacks waiting for us. And now we are traveling without bikes. And this is another place in Sweden. And this is Annika and Bertil, who they are actually here right now in the States visiting our neighbors, which is how we met them. But they were very good to us too. We got to stay with them. Here is Stockholm. And anybody need to be the fifth member? And Vasa, I don't know if you guys have heard of Vasa, an amazing ship that was on the water for 5 minutes and then sunk. But it sunk and then it was stored because of the silt and such. So it's an amazing replica of a ship from the 1600s, I believe. Yeah.
Not a replica, it's the real thing.
Restored, yeah. We were in Norway picking blueberries, picking and eating, kind of, a lot of both. And this is our good friend Cam, who Dean met when he went around the world originally in '97. Cam is from Australia. He spends his time in Australia and Norway, and so we got to see him in both places, in fact. And now we're on, the ferries. We're heading towards Bergen. There's beautiful Bergen. And this was a really fun park at the tippy top of one of the mountains. And look at that troll, it's great. This was an Airbnb. So we stayed in, we camped, we stayed at hotels, we did an Airbnb, just kind of changed it up.
Did you have a car, or did you go by bus or train?
Yeah, so we would always do trains, buses, we did not have a car here, not in Europe. Kylie is jumping off a very high board into the fjord, which was also very cool. She is a gutsy girl.
I think it runs in the family.
And now we're in England, just to look how cool, so this is our sweet friend Cole. He's our people who Dean works with. That's their son, Big Ben. We're in England, so just kind of want to get some of the highlights. There they are, Mike and Ellie, and there's Cole. And now there's number 2. Ellie, those guys were actually going to meet us in Thailand, but with the whole Zika, she said, you know what, can we meet you sooner? And you're like, you bet! So we said, come to England, and then we went to England and France. We went to Paris together, which was very fun. There's the beautiful Eiffel Tower, and at night, nothing prettier, I really don't think. It was gorgeous. Good friends Sally and Rob, who Dean met when he traveled last time. And we just keep in touch with these people. And we went to their wedding, which was 14 years ago, and they had it in this field. This field is her father's land. But every year they've had like a dance afterwards, and so we were able to come. And it was a square dance. It was so much fun. They had the bee's knees, they were called, and we got to dance. Do you guys have anything to say? I should have the kids up here too. So we're just doing the moves. And we hit it at such a good time. Again, very flukishly. We did not plan it, but it worked. And it was so gorgeous. It was purple. This is Margaret Begg, a good friend of our neighbors, who we've met when we've had happy hours. They've been to the States here in our neck of the woods, so they said, oh, if you come, you must come. It's like, okay. And here we are getting on to our very first flight since Madrid, almost missing it. We gave ourselves, we thought, plenty of time, but of course how everything goes with we just barely got onto this thing. So it was literally running through Heathrow. But we're heading to Cape Town. So we're in South Africa. Here's the beautiful mosaic, just a cool mosaic. Wow. This is in Cape Town. They have penguins in Cape Town. And look you can be right there. They're right there. And it's okay that you just don't touch them. They didn't seem nervous or anything. It was crazy. It's like we're walking with penguins. So one of the things, in order to help us keep this within budget, is we did self-drive safari. And this was the the truck we got. This thing was awesome. It was probably more expensive than we maybe wanted, but it still stayed within our budget. And it had a refrigerator, lights, it had an awning, it had a pop-up tent. That panel you see at the tippy top is a solar panel. It was fantastic. And it allowed us to drive from Cape Town up into Namibia, where we met, totally by fluke, this family, Swiss family Pfeiffers, the Pfeiffers. They were doing the exact same thing, traveling for a year with their 3 children, and we happened to meet at a campground, and the rest is history. We met up with them again in a little further, just down the road from this picture. we met up with them in Cambodia for Christmas. We said, let's spend Christmas together, in New Zealand, in Australia, and then they came to see us. So we've had 4 continents together. We are hopefully going to get to see them this summer, so that we can hit 5 continents together. This is fun. This.
Wow.
And I got the further just because I'm upstairs. But anyway, so this is what you get to do in Swakopmund, Namibia. And we were on ATVs to get out there. And here those are elephants. That is our tent. Oh, yes. Wow. They came to us. I mean, it was called the desert. The campground was called the
White Lady Campground, Home of the Desert Elephant.
Home of the Desert Elephant. And we scoffed because we hadn't seen anything. And no sooner had we pulled into this campground than we start seeing 1, 2. There were 19 at the end of the day, and we were this close. I mean, at times we were on top of the truck because it's like, oh. But it was so amazing. Little ones, big ones. Yeah. And this is the next morning. It was beautiful. Yeah, this is beautiful. We're in Namibia. This is their Etosha National Park. Because Namibia is bone dry, what they will do is have water holes, and then it allows you to see all these amazing animals. And oryx, the wildebeest, the rhino, and then just the gazelle. But it is just amazing. Animal encounters were really great for us. We loved them. So, and that's a kudu, one of my favorites. I think it's beautiful. So, and then you could do, once you were in the parks, then you could do park safaris with a guide, and they would stop things a bazillion miles off, and you're like, well, as when we've just gotten used to ourselves. Wow. Seeing it close by. Yeah, here's this elephant giving it to the horse. And then we did see a lion, which was pretty cool, but now I think we're in Kruger National Park, so we've left Namibia and we've gone down into Johannesburg to get to Kruger, but and there's giraffes. It is so amazing. They're right there. It's just a blast. I know it. Huge. We were in a car, and it's weird where this thing was. It was like this river, and it did kind of go down. So really, that was kind of like your eye to eye with this thing, the way that the road was. But it was made for an awesome experience. Now we have to leave South Africa, Dubai, and we go to Dubai. We had a weekend in Dubai, and it was awesome. This is the Burj Khalifa. Right now, the world's tallest building. Whoa. Every 15 minutes, they would light it up, and it was just beautiful. We ate dinner down here at the base of it. And then we left Dubai, and here's our first taste of India, which was awesome and amazing and overwhelming and but beautiful. It was bright, it was colorful, it is populated. And then we took this paola down to Goa. Yeah, we took this bus to Goa. This is a lobster that we could have eaten, but I just wanted to pick it up because it was the most pretty thing I've ever seen. And then Kylie and I did the henna, which was very fun. And then, now we leave by train, and again, so kind. The people are so kind. A smile goes a long way, and you know, even though it's hard-ish to communicate, you make it through, and then, it's just beautiful. It is not scary. It's not. This is Hampi, just one of the temple. It's hot here. And now here, Port Dino is not feeling well. This is our clothes in the sink after taking the bus or the train, or it's just gritty and dirty, but that's our laundry. Go back to Kylie. So it is like 5 p.m. in traffic. There's honking, there's noise everywhere. Kylie was a little tired and she fell asleep. We're making our way to the train station, which when we got there, we had to run onto the moving train, but we got there. So here we are now in the southern part. It's fun. Go ahead. The pink fort,
The Red Fort.
Red Forts. It looks pink. And Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal, I was surprised at how moved I was by it. Because after a while, you know, you hear so much about these things, you're like, but I mean, there is reasons why you hear so much about these things there. It's really beautiful. And now this is another fun, we're going to do another video. This is, but to be able to,
Yeah, I don't know how to do this.
oh, sorry, because if you could hear it. Oh, yeah. It's just honking, honking, honking. We're in a tuk-tuk, and this is just what it, I mean, it's just everywhere, cars, trucks, things that go. I mean, there's no, you just go to where you can. You know, I mean, it's like water. You just kind of make it happen. I'm sorry you can't hear it, because the hearing it is great, because everybody's honking at everybody, and no one's paying it, you know, I mean, it's just, but this is outside of Agra, is this outside, or is this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And Dex is actually sitting on the single seat next to the driver because there's not enough room for all four of us in the
Yeah. But then look at, I mean, there's always festivals, so there are always these beautiful miracles happening. Here we're waiting on a train that didn't come, the kids are sound asleep, it's probably midnight, but I mean, it came eventually. You know.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, this is in Udaipur. And there are the Himalaya. So we left Delhi and we went to India, into the Nepal. And that may have been a really nice coincidence. I mean, to go from India, which is so everything, to be in Nepal, where it's Nepal and beautiful. We went to Kathmandu, which we called India Light. And now we're flying, this is a plane, a very small plane, we're flying up into Lukla. And there, I just, I'm not sure that's truly a Starbucks, but and here is our friend Kevin, who joined us with our friend Craig, who he'll be coming. This is Namche Bazaar. This is the second day out, and it was a big, we are just now getting in, and you can see it's kind of dark. This was one of Dexter's hardest days, he said. This was a toughie, but it was beautiful. And there's Craig, who is also here tonight. And they did a separate pass. We were going to Everest Base Camp. He had to make it more difficult and do 3 passes instead. So,
That is Everest, right?
there it is, you guys. There's Everest. And then this is typical, you know, you get into your lodge, we all kind of, here we did journal, here we did actually do that, and then we would eat and just rest. Yes, exactly. And that is Everest behind us too. No, Anadabon, sorry, Anadabon. But it was beautiful. And here's some dal bots. Is that some dal, Kylie? Yeah, she loved it. And the lodge owners were so good to the kids. Every time the kids showed up with their pet, they were always given candy or something. They were just like, I don't think they see many kids, and they certainly don't see kids carrying their own bags. And there it is. We did it. Woo!
So what elevation is that?
This is 17.
17 and a half is 17 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then how far did you have to hike to get?
How far was the hike to get there?
Craig, how far?
7 days.
Yeah, so 7, but we took it pretty carefully. I think that was 7, 8
Well,
days.
we followed the recommendation for elevation gain each
Right.
day, so
Yeah.
we didn't push it.
No. And there's Everest. That is Everest. And at dusk, look how beautiful. Dean is the photographer. He did amazing things with the camera, with his little camera that he has. There's Craig. Now we're starting to head down, so we kind of went up one way and down a different way, and it was beautiful. And it took us about 2 days to get down. And these, now if we were truly hardworking, this is what we'd be carrying. This is what the Sherpas carry. And these would go on their forehead, and they have these on their, it is unbelievable what those guys are doing. Yeah, and now we're leaving Nepal. I cried leaving. I don't think I'll ever be to such a beautiful place. It was beautiful. And it's also a long flight. Yeah, so now we're in Malaysia. And here we are in Thailand. This is a very dear girl, Isabel, who we met at our place She worked with like City Corps, which is part of the Peace Corps that helps teachers find work in inner city schools. So we, for a while, hosted them, and of course then we came and, you know, we just kept in touch. And when we found out she was in Thailand, it's like, where are you? So she's like, come. That is her roommate, and this is just a night market, you know, just fantastic food, just fun. And then we got to do the elephant washing, which was very fun. That elephant sprayed decks very good. You we're in Laos now, and we did this Gibbon experience, which was a zip line. Here's Dino getting ready to zip line. It was a 2-day hike that you got to zip line into this amazing tree house. This is a tree house. You zipped into it. I mean, you're way up. It was awesome, and it's 3 floors. There were 16 of us on this tour, but oh, and here are the kiddos. Here, the kids are coming in on a zip line. I hope okay. In Laos, you know, you got to see the monks. Just yeah, I know. It's just it could be that we're on the
spinning, so it's
yeah, but we're on the library. So go ahead. Yeah. So we were in Laos very shortly. Our time in Asia was kind of crazy. That was Vietnam, and now we're in Halong Bay, Vietnam. We rented motor scooters, very fun, for $4 or something. You give them a license, $4, you get a helmet, and you get a bike. No training, nothing. And I was like, and this was this is a cave. Sorry.
Paradise Cave.
Say it.
Paradise Cave.
Paradise Cave that we kind of drove in, took a bus to get to, but it was amazing. We were the only ones there. There was no one else there because it was kind of off season, and it was a rainy day, and so for whatever reason, we got the place to ourselves. This is Hong Kong. So we flew to Hong Kong because another good friend from the Bay Area, Mike Montague, was there for work. So we said, we'll come to you. And we did. And this was very cool because, you know, now we've been in Nepal, we've been in Laos, which they don't have big celebrations for Christmas. Now we get to Hong Kong in December, and it is Christmas galore, you know. It's just, and there's my good friend. Oh, sorry. Look at this cool bridge, just a nifty bridge. At the head there is the serpent stone. I mean, just beautiful, you know, making it. And now we're in Hanoi, Hoi An, in Vietnam, just pretty, you know, some street food, which was excellent. And there we are with the Vipers again, so now we're in Cambodia, spending Christmas. It's Christmas time, we're in Cambodia together with them. This was our beach, and we, again, were some of the only ones there. And this was our little village that we stayed at. It was very beautiful here, but it was very rustic, very rustic. We had a thatched hut with a bucket for the shower. So you do have to kind of go without if you want to do this. This is Anne and Louis. I just thought it was such a beautiful picture. I couldn't pass it up. And now we're on to another side of Ho Rong. And this was, you know, look at this. This is amazing. This water you could be in all day. I mean, it was not super hot, not super cold. It was clear, the sandy bottom, no jellies, nothing. I mean, it was fantastic. And you could have fruit, and there was dogs everywhere. There's some dogs back there, I don't know if you can see it. The kids loved it. Then we had to say bye to the island, and this is how we got off. We just went off on, you know, one of the local boats. And now we are in Thailand, Bangkok. Now we're in Siem Reap, I think. So we went, Sogi, right. Sorry. So we're back in Cambodia, Siem Reap, which is where Angkor Wat and all those temples are. These are just some of the, I love Siem Reap. I thought it was amazing, all these temples. Go ahead, Dino. They're kind of trying to redo some of these, but they're awesome. Okay, now we're in Bangkok. This is Morris Vendor's food. This was some of the best sauté, and that lady was a doll. We kept going back to her, and she just would always smile, you know, just beautiful. I nailed that pose. I nailed it. I knew I would. I'm like, And this is called the Green School. This is made of bamboo, and this is 3 floors tall. This is 3 stories high. We got to see this place because when we left Venice, we met a family from Los Gatos who said, well, we'll be in Bali by the time you guys are coming through, come and see us. Like, okay. So we did, and then we got to see Bali, and this is the family that it is the Higgins and Amy and Jeff, and then there are 3 beautiful girls and their 2 husbands. And it was lovely. They held us for a few days. We went from their place, from Bali to Melbourne, right at the Australian Open, which I loved. And it was such a cool, Melbourne is a great city, and the festival is tennis, and with, celebration around tennis. I'm like, how wonderful is that? So, and then here is the first of our camper vans. This was one we chose. So now we don't have a tent, but we're staying in our little camper van. And we made our way along the Ocean Road in Australia, which was beautiful. And this is my girl. This is her, looking down. And Helen and Jeff, Helen and Dean traveled in '97. They kept in touch. I'm sorry, this is Shane. Helen and Shane Jeffs is their last name. So she was celebrating a monumental birthday, so we got to join her for it. And we went camping. We did several things together, but. And there's a little Joey inside. You're in Australia. And this is in Sydney. This is the Sydney Aquarium, and this thing is going right over us. It looks like a manatee, but with buck teeth. There's the Harbour Bridge, and there's the beautiful Opera House, which was gorgeous. And we actually did a tour through on the inside, which I'm so glad we did. It was fantastic. Now we have Deanne joined us. Aunt Deanne came to see us in New Zealand, and it was so fantastic. Like I say, anytime people could join us made it so huge. We were, again, because we're in New Zealand, went to Sir Edmund Hillary, and especially on the cusp of coming out of Nepal. It was cool. And this was just, New Zealand was beautiful. This is the South Island, New Zealand. Absolutely beautiful. Yay! And now we're in Milford Sound, and we lucked out. Apparently this is usually kind of foggy, it can be kind of crappy, but this was our day. And this is what we saw. This is not a fake picture. This is us taking this picture. It was amazing. Wow. It was amazing. They were just totally frolicking in front of the pool. Wow. Yeah. And then we did a little bit, now we're in Queensland, or Queenstown, and did some hang gliding. And we did some jet, what is that called? What is that? What is it?
Jet boat?
Yeah, jet boats. This is us jet boating. Very cool. And then just, at the end of the day, just laughing and being together.
That's in your camper?
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have a lot of space,
We didn't need
but
it.
we know each other.
Yeah. We were sad because the next day we had to say goodbye to our lovely Aunt Deanne. We said goodbye to her, then we headed towards the North Island on ferry. Weta Cave. Weta, people who are in the movies may recognize Weta. They did everything. Go ahead. Sorry, Hobbit. So all Lord of the Ring, all of it. It's those guys who put it on. They were unbelievable special effects, unbelievable. And they're involved in a lot of different movies. It was fun to go through there. It's just a little part of their studio, teeny part, but awesome. This was the van we had for the North Island. This one was by far the biggest pain in the behind. It was, even though it was a VW, which makes me sad, but it was awful, really. But it's what we had, and we made do. But because we were with the Pfeiffers again, so there we are, we're all back together. And we got to have 2 weeks together up in the North Island. And this was one of the first stops. You just kind of park, and it was this huge, sound. And so the tide would go in and out, huge differences. I mean, wow. And this is called the Hot Sand Beach. Hot water beach. And you just dig down a little bit, and there's literally hot water. It's like springs. And so you could just make a pool. So there's Etienne and Dino. This was a neat little chocolate shop that the Pfeiffers the woman who ran it was from their little village. It was excellent chocolate. Then now we're in a Maori village. Just go ahead. Oh, sorry. There are redwoods in New Zealand because they needed a tree that would grow quickly. So we just went to that. There's the world's largest carrot. Of course, you can't. And now we're getting ready to say goodbye again, but it was fun. Waiatapu is another thermal place, very similar to our Yellowstone. This was the last day we got to spend with those guys. There's Auckland. We're in Auckland, and we go from Auckland to South America. Santiago, here we are. We were in and out of Santiago because we needed to get to Patagonia, which is where we are now. And by this bus here, we got there. Argentina was unbelievable, huge, gorgeous, no one there, just beautiful. And I really hope this one works. This one is amazing. This is the Perito Moreno Glacier. That's it behind us. Because there's just a huge chunk of this calves, and it's just awesome. What's that?
Where is this one?
So we are in Argentina. We're in Patagonia. This is called Perito Moreno Glacier. Sorry, he's just trying to help it load, I think. Giving it time to. All right, well. Yeah, I don't either. Go ahead, sorry, which makes me nervous then for the video at the end, but okay, go ahead, sorry. And then this is just how we traveled. Those were our bags. And this was a total fluke of a fantastic meal. That before we took the hike the next day, everything was homemade and super flavorful. It was like we were in Palo Alto. Really, I mean, it was just a fantastic menu and really great food. This is what we did. This Fitzroy hike. So this. And that is the Fitzroy Range behind us. It's just gorgeous. You felt like it was a fake backdrop. It was so pretty. You know, wow. And there's Dax at one of the tippy top kind of, there's a cove. So he kind of had to make his way into that guy, but he did it. We're leaving Santiago, leaving from, where would we leave from? We're going now to
Buenos Aires.
Yes.
To
Okay.
La Paz.
Okay, so now we are in La Paz. We're in a funicular. It's real, tall. La Paz was amazing. And again, we're high up. This is 2 miles up, and yet look at the mountain range that's all around you. I had no idea that it was so high. It was amazing. And this is where we took language lessons for a week, Pico Verde. We attempted, at least. And Gustu is a very famous restaurateur who started in Denmark. Yeah, and opened a spot here that we just fell into. We didn't know he was as well known as he was globally, but our meal there was amazing. And it was, what he tried to do is, he's one of the first ones to bring farm to market foods, and he wanted to find a country that he felt hadn't tapped into their food resources yet. So again, because we were just kind of in this neighborhood, and we saw that this was the place we could go to. As soon as we walked in, I thought, this is something. But there was bread behind it. He'd already started as a bakery. I'm like, if there's bread, this will be good. This is okay. But it was truly like a 5-star meal on La Paz prices. I mean, it was just amazing. So here's some of the market. There's some cholitas. I mean, it's just, this is what you see. It's not, and now we had a really nice bus to go out to the Uyuni Salt Flats. This was kind of on our way out there. It was an overnight bus. And this is what you get to do at Uyuni Salt Flats. You get to make these crazy dimensions because there's nothing to stop, there's nothing in the way of it. And then the sun going down, it was beautiful. And just because the wind, makes this gorgeous, gorgeous scenery. Now we're in Ecuador. Oh no, sorry, I guess that was still Uyuni. That was the car that we took. Now we're in Chile. We're going to do Machu Picchu. Oh, Peru. Sorry, guys. And this was our group. Really, these guys were from San Antonio. She was from Holland, I believe, and those guys are from England. So again, you just meet all sorts of people. This was a long day. This is where we got to stay. It was good food. This is a fruit, a passion fruit, that looks like brains, but it tastes pretty good. There's a freeloading butterfly and Machu Picchu. Wow.
So how many days was the trek to get here?
5?
5 days?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
did you
But one
camp
day-
or stay at the inn?
We just rode with this tour. So yes, one day we had the camping, or a couple days. One day we were in like a little igloo thing, and then we were in hotels. I mean, it's
So it was an organized, that
yeah,
part was
that
an
one we
organized
did
thing?
organize. Yep, we paid for that. And then we did up to the very tippy top of Machu Picchu mountain, which is actually even higher up than Machu Picchu. We are in Guayaquil. It's just a church, a random. This is our passports to say we can go to the Galapagos. There is a Lemurian iguana that you will see, and you can get that close. It does not mind. These are the Sally Lightfoot's, the crabs. This was the Galapagos we did budget bust because Dean had wanted to go the last time he did his trip, but he said it was just too expensive. I'm like, do you know what? I don't think it's gonna get any cheaper, and we're here, you know. So we decided it was worth the money, and we ended up being on this catamaran. It was called Tip Top Dos Catamaran, and then we got to go to different parts of the island. So there's the blue-footed booby and the Sally Lightfoot, and that was the boat that we were studying.
That's your boat? Wow.
Yeah. And this is some of the itineraries, so just to kind of help you remember where we were. Yeah. And we were always on the water. I know, and those things are nasty. They're kind of frightening, and they're really prehistoric looking. I mean, this is Jackie, who we met. Jackie and my Kai girl, and there's John, her husband. They were kind of on a honeymoon. They were fantastic. They are now in Hong Kong, so we're hoping to maybe get to see them. And this is Cuenca, where my niece Zoe is living. We took a bus to go up to a national park at the tippy top of Cuenca. This is Zoe, her girlfriend Isabella. Yes.
In order to have a couple of questions.
I know.
I know.
So we're almost, this is the last.
We want you to be able to answer
I know.
questions.
So there it is, our passports back to US, our custom, you know, and then I think the last thing. Yeah, okay.
Wow.
So that.
Great! I just wanted to have the opportunity to ask you. What a journey.
Yeah. I just didn't even get us home, but that's okay.
So I had a couple of more questions, but you know what? I think we shall open it up for you guys. Yes.
So I like wow.
Yeah.
But I am working with kids. So what was like the hardest thing in Belgrade and the best?
I would say that the Galapagos was probably maybe my favorite country. I also like India though. But what the hardest part is a hard part because I guess that hiking in Nepal is very difficult. But I say that the hardest part of the whole journey would be a couple of flights when we biked across the U.S.
And they actually have a slideshow of that. So when I take away the chairs and stuff, the ones of you that want to just have a look at the.
And that's a video.
Yeah.
That one goes quicker. There's no need to
So if anyone wants to see that afterwards.
Yes. Go ahead.
Did either you or your husband work at all during the whole 14 and a half months?
No, we didn't. I mean, besides just the work of it all. Dean actually kept a blog for us, and I meant to put that familyafar.blogspot.com. Dean was amazing with it. Every day he would update it and keep it updated. So I would call that his job, because there were times where I felt like it was his job, you know. So as far as that kind of work, yes, but as far as an employment job, no.
Did it pay well?
I said no. But it pays in rewards much greater than money, I feel, but that's my take.
What
what did you do to your home here?
So actually, our wonderful friend Reka, who was there, we had our neighbors knew a family that was coming from France that wanted to be in the Bay Area. So through our neighbors, we got to have Reka and her family stay at our house while we were gone. So that worked out nicely. And then purging was also a good, it felt kind of good. Because we knew we'd be living on very little, to come back to so much was going to be overwhelming. And it was, we still felt like we had a lot, but.
We left all our furniture and most of the stuff in the house and just took our personal stuff out.
Yeah, which was really very handy too.
Did you vaccinate the children?
We did. The kids had many shots. I think we all had shots. I think we had 10 shots, for various different things. And then we had malaria tablets.
Yellow fever, typhoid, polio, rabies.
Yeah.
Are you going somewhere else now?
I've had all
So,
those diseases.
when the kids get back, do they just test out the following year of school, or what happens with school?
So we were very fortunate too. The principals on both the schools were like, do this, don't worry about it. And then what happened is they came back. Kylie left when she was a 3rd grader, so her 4th grade year, she was gone. She came back, she's in 5th grade.
And there was no testing.
No,
Which
Dex had to
seems
do a small
surprising.
math test,
We
but
kept asking, it's like, well, what tests do we need to do? And we started to realize that every time a student comes in from either another state or another country, they don't test them, they ask, how old are they, what grade are they in? And so, that's really all there was to it. And Dex did a math test just to make sure that to place him into the math class. But
Right.
That was it.
what were you going to say, Dex?
Basically, they just pretend like you moved out for a year and then you're moving back in.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you're out of the district, you're out of their control.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Were there any problems eating the street food? Like, did anybody get sick?
A couple of times, deli belly they call it. We had some issues, but never a throwing up thing. It was always intestinal, but it was always short-lived. It never had us down for too long at all. Dean was the only one we had a fever when he was in Hampy. We were afraid it may have been malaria because he had it for a couple of days. So then one day he went to the doctor and, for $7 got a lab test and then $4 got the medicine. It was just,
And I didn't have malaria.
yeah.
Just an infection.
Yeah, so nothing worse than that. Yeah.
How did you navigate the language difference when you traveled?
Well, again, because we were in such kind of popular places, you could speak English and get away with it pretty well. If it was ever hard, we just kind of charade it, or.
Spanish, and our Spanish
Oh,
is
right.
basic, but yeah, in South America, you're kind of expected to know some Spanish.
Right.
But a lot of the tourist spots, if you're from Germany or Spain or somewhere, you're probably speaking Russia, you're probably speaking
Swedish.
English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate in that respect. And then, of course, you just mime or
Yeah.
point. Words.
Yeah.
So I just have one little thing here. So one thing for you that have been to these events, you know that we're going to have a little 2-minute thing here where we're going to ask you to think about a question. So I'm going to give you a question, if you can just think about it and then talk to the person next to you about this. And since you did something that was so courageous, so sort of out of the ordinary, my questions for you guys is, what would you do today or in the near future, being courageous, to get out of your comfort zone and do something you really would love to do? So if you would like to think about that and then talk to the person next to you and make sure they're all included. Right. just want to end this by first of all saying thank you so much to all of you for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you so much to you, to Dean, Dex, and Kylie. And I just have a little something here for you. Here. So thank you so much for sharing this beautiful journey with us.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Will you be able to get that going, do you think?
I can. One problem is there's no sound.
Okay. But anyway, so, yes?
I just wanted to ask if any of the rest of us are interested in something like this. We may not have as many friends as you.
Yeah. We'll just contact Dean. So, thank you so much. Please, we will have to clear out this room, but while we work with chairs and stuff, please have some more buns. There are buns and so on, and you will be able to see this slideshow of the last part.
So this was our ride back home from Boston to San Jose, and I really feel I have to point out, Don Horner, Dean's brother, joined us, Don.
Yeah.
And again, anytime, Dean's family was really good to us because it was very fun. The highlights of our trip were when people came, and the highlights were when family. And so Deanne and Don, they made it super special. And I'm sorry I didn't get to get you up there. I am. But we got to ride 3 days. 3 days, was it? 3 or 4?
It seemed like a week.
Yeah.
So thank you again.